The stage is set. What a finish! Miraculous! Awesome. A new star is born!
Hi folks, Leigh Diffey with you to talk two wheels, and I'm delighted to say that we have five-time Moto America Superbike champion Cameron Beaubier with us. But more importantly, we're going to park the Moto America stuff for a moment because Cameron is in Europe. He's talking to us at the moment from a hotel room there. He's recently finished testing on his new Moto2 bike where he competes for the American racing team. Cameron, thanks for your time. Let's get straight to it. How was those first couple of tests?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, the tests were, they were challenging, but they're really good. Every lap I get on this new Moto2 bike is positive. Yeah, just kind of, we really don't get, too much testing before the season actually starts. So, yeah, like I said, every lap you're learning something, and every test day is a positive. I've had a couple crashes trying to get up to speed quick and stuff like that. But yeah, we just got done at Portimao last week after 100 and something laps over both days. And yeah, like we just talked about before we went on, I'm really, really happy that I got to that track in Portimao, because that would be a really tough place to learn on a race weekend. So yeah, it's so far so good. The team has been, welcome me right in, and we've been working really well together so far, and we're not too far off to start off with. So I don't want to get too excited, just build slowly. And when we go racing, that's when we got to be fast. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to the challenge. It's going to be tough, like, learning everything as quick as I can and stuff like that, and getting up to speed at tracks I haven't been to since, 09 on a 125. So, but I'm really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
That's an important point that you make there for people who may not be too familiar with your story. You did do an entire season on the World Motorcycle Championship in MotoGP in the 125 class, and you've had other experiences in the UK and Europe. So it's nothing new. But how is it getting back over there and knowing that, you're not going to be home for a long time? You've got to live in bubbles. Like when you go to the first round in Qatar on March 28th, you got a couple of races there in residency style. What's it like being back in Europe and knowing that you're going to be there for the long haul?
It's really cool. It's definitely, definitely different than the US. Back here, or when I raced here back in 2009, so the 2 years prior to that, I did the Rookies Cup in 2007. I was only, 13, 14 years old. Ended up, doing pretty good in that, and got promoted to the MotoGP Academy, which is run by Dorna. And they basically, they get you ready for MotoGP. And so, I was taken care of well. I was taught how to train and train like the MotoGP guys and stuff like that year. And then 09, I was kind of just thrown in the deep end, and it was tough. My parents they have, normal jobs at home. I got a little brother and stuff like that. So they only got over here for one race. So I was kind of on my own. Luckily I had, some people that helped me out along the way. But so that's why I feel like I'm so excited this time. I'm more established coming over here. I rented a house for a year outside of Barcelona, and yeah, it's by the water and stuff like that, figuring out the town that I'm living in and stuff like that. And it's actually, it's been really cool. So that's besides the whole racing part.
So you're living in Spain, and a little birdie told me recently that your old buddy from the States, Garrett Gerloff, world superbike competitor, who's based in Andorra, came down to hang out with you. That's got to be good to have a mate not too far away.
Yeah, no, me and Garrett, we've known each other for a long time. We were teammates at Yamaha for 8 years or something like that on 600s, and then also superbikes in the last or a couple years ago. And we actually lived together for a little bit. He came out and lived with me in California for a couple of years. So I know Garrett really well. It was really cool to, catch up with him, hang out with him for a little bit, and, see a friendly face in Europe. And, it's cool. Like, we're obviously on two different paths, but it's the same more or less. And it's cool just to, like pick his brain about everything that he's learned and went through the last year. And same thing, like he's curious how I'm doing in testing and stuff like that. Like we're kind of, we're rooting for each other and in our own category. So it's cool.
Hey, who knows? You might end up in the MotoGP paddock to get together one day.
That'd
be like
nice.
Old times. Hey, speaking of that, I think we do need to break it down for a lot of people and reiterate just how difficult it is to land where you are. If you're a kid growing up racing bikes in Spain or in Italy or in Portugal or even in the UK for that matter, the transition to the MotoGP paddock, whether that be Moto3, Moto2, MotoGP, is a lot more achievable, so to speak. When you live on the other side of the pond, or where you live where I come from in Australia, it's tough, mate. So how did this opportunity come about for you?
It is really tough. I've built a lot of great connections at a young age over here. Just racing in CEV in the Rookies Cup in the 1 year and 125s. And yeah, I still, riders, obviously, a couple mechanics and some people like that. And yeah, just coming back into the States and doing what I did there and having a real successful run with Yamaha and stuff like that. I've obviously always wanted to get back to the world stage. I thought my path was going to be World Superbike. I honestly thought that's like where I was going to go and where I would slot in. I did a wild card in 2016 at Donington in World Superbike for the Pata Yamaha team, and it was awesome. The World Superbike paddock, I feel like it's a little bit probably more laid back than the MotoGP paddock. I did decent. Ended up crashing the first race, and then the second race I got like a top 10, but qualified inside the top 10. I remember sitting on the grid with Nicky Hayden. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Nicky Hayden. I never got to race him before. I raced both his brothers and stuff. But anyways, I thought my path was World Superbike, and the goal was to get back to Europe. But truthfully, I've had such a good deal with Yamaha, and we've had so many great years together that I was able just to kind of put them together, and the right opportunity never really came until I feel like this year. Eton with American Racing, I saw how well Joe had done last year, and I saw how well Garrett had done last year in the World Superbike paddock. And, I was over in America kind of doing the same thing over and over, and which is great. I had a great relationship with Yamaha and still do. And all those guys are like family to me. But as a racer, I just needed like something else. I needed something fresh.
A new challenge.
Yeah. And that's what we put together with Eton and American Racing and their whole team. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I definitely was going back and forth signing the paperwork, back when all of it was getting real. But I'm so happy, it hasn't even started yet. And I'm so happy that I've done it. It's just, motivating at home.
Cameron, the second day of your most recent test in Portimao, you were in the top 10, which is really encouraging. A lot of people over here were excited to see that. But something also that people will make a big deal of this year is that there are two Americans, yourself and Joe Roberts, in the Moto2 World Championship. And of course, he has left American Racing Team, the seat that you now occupy. Do you guys have a relationship at all?
Yeah, I mean, every time I see him, I talk to him, and we rode bicycles a little bit together back at actually Josh Hayes' house down in Oceanside a few years back. And I think he's a great guy, and I wish him all the best. What he did last year is pretty impressive, and what he's done so far this year, just with the one test I was at with him, he was really fast. So yeah, I think it's a good year for him to really shine. And yeah, I was pretty, the second day I was pretty happy with towards the end, like how I was feeling on the bike and stuff like that. Like, I feel like it's probably the same for every rider, but I feel like I didn't necessarily put together like a real good lap. So I was actually pretty happy with being inside the top 10, knowing I didn't really put together, like a great lap. So yeah, I think it was just positive. And like I said before, just besides the fact of even, like how fast or slow I went, just seeing that track and riding that track, I really think it's probably the hardest track to learn on the calendar. So being able to get there and spend some laps with the American racing team, and also just spend some more time on that Moto2 bike, I think that was really, really good, like for when we show up there for the race.
Tell us from your point of view the differences between your Moto America Yamaha Superbike and your American racing team Moto2 bike, as far as power, just the feel of it, the ergonomics, the electronics, just all those kinds of things that you're like, oh, wow, this is different. This is taking a little bit extra to get used to.
Yeah, so my Moto America Superbike, like that thing was really fast. We're over 200 horsepower, probably 220. I don't know exactly the number. The electronics are really, really sophisticated. We're changing traction control and wheelie control and engine brake corner by corner. And yeah, even like power of the bike, everything. On the Moto2 bike, it's not as powerful. It's a 765cc triple, but it's literally like 50 pounds lighter, quite a bit smaller. And so power to weight ratio, like we're doing probably, if we're on the same track with the Moto2 tires and then like the American Superbike Dunlops, I guarantee like the times are probably pretty close, just because the bikes are so, they're so different, but they're so good in their own ways. The Moto2 bike, it's just so rigid. And, when you get it out of shape, it gets real snappy, and it just wants to go fast. It's such a rigid, stiff bike. And it's really, really good though. It's definitely taken me a little bit of time to get back the feeling of coming off the corner, and not necessarily the feeling of, but just getting the throttle like open. Like I'll crack it early, but just rolling into the power is what I've been struggling with a little bit, just coming from a bigger bike to a smaller bike. But it started getting better and better at Portimao, and I think it's just going to take me a little time.
How are you at how are you at learning? Are you a quick learner? Because you're going to have to learn some new tracks like Portimao, like you have, and then you're going to have to relearn some tracks from your old 125cc World Championship days. So are you a quick learner?
Yeah, I better be. It's funny. Jerez, when we came here for like the first time I ever rode the bike, and I remember Jerez, from 125s, and I played it obviously on the video game a little bit just to refresh my memory. But man, the turns, like all the turns came up way quicker on a Moto2 bike than a 125. Is pretty crazy, but it's a awesome track. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to spending this week on it.
So we've got to let you go. You're a busy man, but before we do, and I don't want to rush things here, but is the goal, now that you're back over there, you got the feel for Europe, you're on your new Moto2 bike, is the end goal MotoGP?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be over here if it wasn't. I think what works best for me though is just, taking it step by step and just trying to get the most out of the situation I'm in right now. And that's with American racing, and trying to learn everything I can as quick as I can and get up to speed as quick as I can. Cause these guys really are the best in the world. I got a real reality check in Portimao when all those guys rolled out, and just seeing how fast they were, and seeing how close the times were. So it's pretty impressive how fast these guys are. And yeah, it's going to be tough, but I think once we get rolling, it's going to be really good.
Well, I know there's a lot of people over here in the States very proud of you, very excited for you. You could have stopped your career after 5 Moto America Superbike championships, but you're having a go in your late 20s. And I want to tell you something, words of encouragement. Keep this in mind. 5-time MotoGP world champion Mick Doohan, 1993 world champion Kevin Schwantz, triple world champion Wayne Rainey, who you know very well. They all didn't win their first world championship until their late 20s, all right? So there's more good things to come for you.
I like that. I like that.
All right, good. Best of luck at the Jerez test, and we'll be watching. And of course, MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3, the whole World Championship, all three classes get going in Qatar, March 28. You'll see MotoGP and some Moto2 highlights right here on NBC Sports.